Hello, I'm Doug DeWitt, your T-shirt transfer paper product manager here at Condé Systems, welcoming you to our latest video in our series on the Forever TransferRIP, which of course is a great software tool that you can use to manipulate graphics using the Okidata white toner systems here. Now, since we've been selling this RIP here at Condé, we've had a lot of clients that's had tremendous success with it, but then again, we've also had a lot of questions regarding the operation of the RIP. So I'm pleased to have Christopher Sigmann here from Forever Paper with us today. Christopher, thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Doug. It's a pleasure for me being here.
Yes. And so what we're going to do in this video is Christopher is going to give us a guided tour on the Forever TransferRIP. We're going to talk about some of the latest updates and innovations that have taken place within the RIP, and hopefully we're going to address some of your frequently asked questions as we jump on Christopher's computer and he drives us through some of these new functions that are available with the Forever TransferRIP. So Christopher, if you could just take a second or two, tell us about some of the updates of the RIP. What should we be looking for?
Sure. At least in the last 12 months, we added several new functions. The most prominent function will be the calculation function that gives you an exact cost calculation of your different printouts. So you never have to guess how much toner do I invest in my printout. It tells you exactly the costs. Considers the amount of paper that you've used. It considers even the consumables like the image drums or the fuser belt.
Interesting. So basically what that will do is you can get an exact cost per print on the graphic that you're going to generate before you even generate the graphic.
Yes, exactly. You can even play with the settings, like try different raster options, try different white toner levels, and it tells you exactly the cost that you generate. You can even do a cost comparison between the OK standard driver and the RIP output.
So basically what we're saying is, you know, for those of you out there that are using the standard Oki driver, you can see the savings that you're going to generate with every print by using this cost calculator in the new version of the Forever TransferRIP. So I guess to get started here, tell us how someone would update their RIP if they already have a copy.
Oh sure, easy to do. It's just an internet connection. Let's just jump right to my computer. So let me just show you how to determine which version we are using right now. So as October 2017, when we're looking at the upper bar, we can see version 2.30. This is the newest version based on October 2017. So depending on how old your version is, you will see here quite a few new buttons over there. Let's just jump over the buttons and explain you what you can see behind these buttons. So over here, you see the layout function.
I do.
Which is about 1 year old, so depending on when you bought the RIP the last time, or when you used it the last time, or updated it the last time, you can see here the layout function. And with this function, you can place several logos onto one sheet and save some sheets.
So this allows you to gang images.
Yes, exactly. Next to it, there's the calculation function. So in this button over here, we can look up previous calculations, or we can set up a new calculation. Quite important, especially for US clients, the system button, where we can enter global settings and change everything from centimeters, millimeters, or to inches, whatever is convenient for you. And the currency for the calculation into US dollars.
Awesome.
So we save that, go from here. When you want to know how long can I get updates for, you go to the register button, you see here you update current update code, and down here in the third line, you will see update plan until. Until this date, our free updates are included.
So once that date expires, that's when somebody needs to get on the upgrade program, correct?
On the update plan, correct. You can still use the RIP program unlimited time, but you just work with the old version. You might miss out some new functions.
I understand.
So over here on profile updates, we can get the newest profiles that we have down here. A profile is always a pair between a Forever paper, for example, a laser dark no cut, and the printer that you are using. In this example, the Pro 8432 WT. Online Wiki is just a manual as a Wikipedia version, as an online version. So if you lost the manual, just click on Online Wiki and you end up there. When you hit the quit button, quite self-explanatory, it quits the program. So let me show you how to update the program. First thing you're going to do is you go to the support button, click it. Now you got two options. One is bug reporting, the other one is updates. to receive updates, you must be online. Let me click on the update button over here. So, when you want to update your TransferRIP and you have a valid update plan, all you have to do is log in into the server, check over here for new updates. When updates are available, you can download them here on that button. Just wait until the update is completed and close the RIP, install the update, you're ready to go. All files that you're already using will still be there in the settings that you saved it.
I got you.
Another nice function, the support function, is the bug reporting function. So over here, you can put in files, can put in your contact information over here, and we get all the system information that we need to help you with your problem. Would be useful when you tell us what exactly is your problem, like pink turns out green, for example. You just email the bug report, and usually the team in Germany responds to you in 1 or 2 days. Once you understand the menus and complete the update, you're ready to start with the RIP.
So as you can see from that demonstration, using the update feature in the RIP is an important feature, and you do need to be aware of it. So if you already own the Forever Transfer RIP, make sure you check on that update for frequent updates that Forever provides. Also, to let our clients know, whenever you purchase the Forever Transfer RIP, you can update the RIP the first 6 months for free. Now, once that 6-month period is over, Chris, how does one go about updating their RIP or getting on an update plan?
So let's say you have bought a RIP 12 months ago, your RIP update plan is already expired. So what you can do is, anytime when you like to do, is just buy a so-called update extension plan for 12 months. Instead of buying a new RIP, you just pay a small fee, which is usually about $15 a month, not more, and you get updates for the next 12 months on top. Doesn't matter when you choose to do the update plan. When your RIP version is 2 years old, you will still get all the new updates since today's point.
Fantastic. So remember, people, you get the first 6 months of updates for free. Then after that, there is an update plan available through Forever. So now, Chris, to tackle some of the other common questions that we get, probably the one we get asked more often is, what file formats can the RIP handle, and how do you actually load a file into the RIP?
Oh, that's pretty easy. The RIP handles all native file types like PSD files, PDFs, JPEGs, PNGs, and much more. So every common native file type can be loaded into the RIP. Let me show you how it works and just jump right into my computer. So here we are on the job selection screen. That's the second out of 5 screens. And when we look here on the right, we can see different file types. You can use different files like PNGs, PDFs, EPS, JPEG, or PNGs. What you also can use is a PSD file from directly out of Photoshop. So you can use the most common file types.
I see.
So some of the file types have advantages, and some aren't that good to work with. For example, a JPEG can never create a transparent layer, so we'll always have a white background. Let me show you how to remove that white background. So
please show us how to remove the white background.
We choose here the JPEG file that I've already loaded in and move my mouse down to the preview over here and click on it. We now get a preview of our image on a white background. On a white background, we won't see the white background itself. So let's just step into the next step shortly. And this is the white render control. Here we see that we would print a white block, which we don't like to have. So we're going to go back over here and remove a color. So here we use the remove color function. We click on it, click here on our white, and go for save. On the right hand side, we see here the tolerance. 0 doesn't remove anything, and a low number will remove only the very exact color. So let's just start right away with 4, and it removes now the white. Let's see what happens. So this didn't remove the white because our background over here contains different CMYK values from 111 to 212, so we have to work for high tolerance. Let's just try it with 15. The higher we go, the more of the white color will be taken out. So we're going to go next, and we removed almost everything except a white border around here.
So that white border must be a different shade of white than what was internal to the graphic.
Exactly. So this here is more like a shade of light gray, to say so. So remove even that. We increase our tolerance again. Let's try 25. Go to the next step. And now it's all gone. There's no white background anymore.
Wow, Chris, that was some really great information about removing the white background from those JPEGs, because I know a lot of people have a tendency to struggle with that, but the RIP really does make it simple.
Yeah, it does, really.
Now, that kind of leads me into my next question. Once we get the file in, I know that there are some great color management tools that are within the RIP, but a lot of people tend to struggle with how to manipulate that color management. So if you could give us a quick overview, we'd really appreciate it.
Sure, let me just show you this on a short t-shirt over here. The color management function works great on vector files, for example, not so good on pixelated files. Let's say we do have here 3 colors on that file. We do have the cyan, we do have the dark red, and we do have the white. Let's say for some reason we do like to change the red into another color like green. So within the RIP there is a color replacement function next to the color removal functions. So you can replace and remove colors quite easily without going into graphic software like CorelDRAW or Photoshop. So when you want to do some easy quick changes, the RIP is your place to go.
So we don't even have to go back into the software, we can do everything straight from the RIP.
Yeah, we can do everything straight from the RIP. So dealing with the color management is very simple. So the first thing, once we decided for a graphic, let's just use the Capis color over here. Select it by clicking on a preview. Now we get to our step 3, the color management screen. Here are different things to do. As you saw with the white background, you can remove colors. So instead of white, we can also remove, let's say, red. So we click here on red, say save, and work with the tolerance. There we go, red is gone. To get it back, we simply reduce the tolerance to 0. There's red again. As you see, or as you don't see, we have a white skull on a white background. To see your image on an actual t-shirt, you can decide here on substrate color for a t-shirt color. It can be pink, red, whatever you imagine, and in this case we use black.
So it gives you a representation of what the graphic should look like once you ultimately transfer that design to your garment.
Exactly. Let's work with the black case in this over here. So what you also can do with the color management screen is you can change colors. Quite simple. So to do this, you go to the selective color correction over here, click on the pencil over here, and this window here pops up. So what it does, it gives you the option between destination and source color. So we click on source color. This is the color we want to change. Let's go again with red. And we can decide, we can either click on a color to replace it with. For example, we want everything blue, or we can type in a color manually. For example, green. You get a live preview over here of the color. I like the idea of making everything blue. So we just click on blue. We are working here for low tolerance, and click on save. So what now happened, the red that we marked turned into blue. What you might see over here, the leaves over there are still somehow reddish. This happened because this is a different shade of red. It wasn't the same red as in the glass. Also the OK letters over here, down here on the text, are also in a different shade of red. What if we want to change all red tones to our blue? So we double click here on our color management screen, increase the tolerance, go save again, and everything that was red is now blue.
I see that. So basically you might have to experiment with the tolerance setting in order to adjust the colors that you want to correct.
Exactly. It's quite easy, as you always get a live preview.
That is true.
When we want to get back to our initial graphic, we just go over here, selective color correction, and remove it. So everything is back to normal. Down here we see different bars. So brightness is pretty simple. You go on the right, the image becomes brighter. You go on the left, the image becomes darker. The same goes for saturation, magenta, gamma, contrast, and so on. Also here you get a live contrast. To give you a little tip, when you want to rasterize your image later on, I recommend to increase the brightness to +4 and the saturation somewhere in between +5 and +10. This will give you more vivid colors after the rasterization process.
After rasterization. So if you are not going to raster a graphic, if you're going to print it like it would originally screen from the Oki itself, just leave those value settings alone.
Yeah, leave it alone. Just everything at 0 and you're good to go.
Okay, but if we are going to rasterize the graphic, because we want to break that graphic up, then do a slight increase to the brightness and a slight increase to the saturation, and we should get a good result.
Exactly. My recommendation over here is +4 in brightness, +10 in saturation, and you're good to go.
So as you can see, you got some powerful color management tools within the Forever TransferRIP. And the beautiful part about it is you don't have to jump back into your graphic software to make those quick changes. Now that we've got color management figured out, what we really need to talk about, Chris, is white channel control. Because you know and I know, whenever you're using an Oki driver, it's going to default and dump a certain amount of white toner onto our transfer, and usually it is too much toner, correct?
Correct, Doug. Absolutely correct. Oki does great printers, but they are not really experts in textile transfer, so that's how Forever comes in play. So you have to control. You need a tool to control the amount of white placed down behind your graphic. This tool cannot be graphic software, because graphic software cannot manipulate the printer driver from the Oki printer. So let me show you 2 examples.
Please.
So on this printout over here, we do have a printout from the Oki standard driver. What we can see over here is that especially dark colors, like here the darker red, turn out a little bit dullish. And that happens because there's too much white behind the red color. When you heat up white toner and the darker color on top, it slightly mixes up. So the white shows through the dark color, which results to a little bit dull colors.
I got you.
When we're looking at the back side of this shirt, I have a printout with the TransferRIP. The only difference here is the amount of white laid down. So when we look here, the colors, they are much more vibrant, much darker. There's no difference in white, because pure white stays pure white. It doesn't matter if you print it with the Oki driver or with the TransferRIP, but especially on the darker colors, you get much more vibrant colors. So let me just turn it back around. So this is the standard driver, a little bit light.
Okay.
And this is the actual wanted color, a darker red on our t-shirt. So
okay.
This is just the white channel control, where we have here a level of about 150% fill-up spot. What that is, we'll explain this in a second. And here on the Oki printer driver, we usually have a fill-up spot in between 260% and 300%.
Wow.
So our toner savings, in this case, about 40% on cost. I put down here a cost calculation based on the C920. So we can see here that we used 10, 8, and 9% on cyan, magenta, and yellow. But on white, as we move back down a lot of white, we use 23% of white toner, which results in 68 cents on toner costs just for that printout in 1117. When we look at the print from the RIP, we still have 10, 8, and 9% on CM and Y, because we didn't alter the colors at all. But on the white, we just have 10% compared to 23% white. So we saved 13% white toner, and white is our most expensive color. So in this case, we saved 43% on toner cost in this example.
Wow. So basically what we're demonstrating here, people, is that by having the white channel control, not only can you use less white toner and save yourself a tremendous amount of money, but you're actually going to get better color rendition by controlling that white.
Absolutely. Actually, we designed that white channel control to improve the colors. The toner savings, the cost savings, are just a neat side effect.
Well, that is a neat side effect. Do you mind showing us how it works?
Sure, absolutely. So, to go to the white channel control, when we are at our color management screen, we just go up to the lower right corner, push the next button. And what opens up here is step 4, and also the control of the spot channel. So when we're looking at this control of the spot channel, like in the printer driver, we can switch white off over here, or put white back on. But we got even more options. So we can control the amount of white laid down behind the graphic. When we open this drop-down menu, we can see a white toner coverage from 400% down to 50%. So which coverage do I need? The OK white toner printer lays down a coverage of 300% to 270, somewhere in that range. So when we click here on 280% coverage, we're more or less simulating the OK printer driver output. So when we're looking here at our screen, we can see that a lot of white is laid down behind every color, behind red, behind the blue, and of course behind white.
That is a tremendous amount of white. I imagine that also leads to an increase in cost.
Exactly. White is the most expensive color that you have in your printer because it's a specialty color. And there's a lot of science behind that. So we worked on ways to save white toner. When we open the fill up spot menu again, we can see a star behind 200% and behind 150%. So in between those levels, it's our recommendation. So when we work with 150% coverage, we do see a decrease in the amount of white. So we have full white behind white because there's no other way to create white, a lighter amount of white behind the blue, and no white behind red. And this will even stand out onto dark fabrics because most of the opacity will come from the forever low temp emulsion sheet or the B paper. The white has actually just a different function. Let me show you which function it has. We just jump here into a graphic. So what you can see over here is how the TransferRIP white level control works. In this case, we set it up to 200% over here, and colors that consist out, for example, of 100% magenta and 100% yellow, like our red, already fill up to 200% of toner density. So there's no need to add more white into it. So when we're looking at the second bar with 30% cyan and 100% white, we can see that it fills up to a level of 130%. That's enough to extract the adhesive from the B sheet. The major function of the OK white toner printer is to level up weaker colors like the 30% cyan or the 100% cyan over here on the left side. Not really about opacity. Another example, when we look at the brownish yellowish color onto our right, we already have 175% of toner density, 100% yellow, 50% magenta, 25% cyan. So the printer driver only fills up to 200%. Let's go back into our RIP. So let me move that up to 200%, and we can see that we have now more white behind the blue and a little bit of white behind the red. So this is the way we would like to work it. So there's also the multiplied spot by factor. This is a function you use really quite seldom, but let me explain you what it does. As you can see here on our screen, left-hand side, on the blue sunglass over here, we do have about 50–60% of white laid down. That's why it's shown in gray. When we want to increase the amount of white, we could either go with white coverage, but what we can see that we even increase white on the dark color. Maybe this is not wanted because we want our dark colors to be as dark as possible. So we're looking for a way to use less white. In this case, we can use the factor. The factor increases the amount of white by the factor. In that case, we use 2. So we now have the double amount of white on those areas where we put white. This is quite useful when you want to highlight weaker colors or light colors, but don't want to dull down your dark colors.
I see. So in other words, it gives us a way to preserve those dark colors like your reds and your blues by not putting so much white behind it, but if we have a lighter color, then essentially we are putting down a little bit more white, and it's just more of an opacity setting?
It's not really an opacity setting, it just gives you a little bit more vibrancy, especially on light colors.
I see.
So you can really fine-tune it. Normally, I would say in about 90% of all cases, a factor of 1.0 is perfect.
Hey Chris, since we're on the topic of white channel control, maybe there's one question that you can help answer for our clients, which is sometimes when you're using the Forever Low Temp, you might get like a white edge around the outside edge or the hard edge. Is there anything that you can do RIP-wise to eliminate that hard white edge that you might see in some graphics?
Absolutely, Doug. We call this one underfilling. What underfilling does, it recognizes partial transparent pixels and just chokes them off. So let me show you this on this t-shirt again. So what we can see over here, especially under the red eye, or here in the leaves, we can see some nasty white edges.
That's right,
The trickiest thing is, you don't see these edges on the screen. These edges occur mostly on pixelated graphics like Photoshop files, JPEGs, PNGs, and usually you see the transparent pixel on the edge, which is a nice function when you work, for example, Photoshop on a pixelated file. You zoom in, and you get a clean edge when you work on the file on the screen. Normally, a printer doesn't see these files because they are transparent. The OK printer driver picks up these transparent pixels and backs it up with white as it's programmed to do.
Oh.
So then we create these white edges, which are quite nasty, quite annoying, especially on letters and here on the leaves, because it just dulls down your picture.
Yeah, it's almost like it's filling in white where we don't need it.
Exactly. So when we look up at the other print with the out of the rip, we can see that the white edge over here disappeared. The white edges next to the OK letters are gone, and here significantly reduced on the white leaves. And we got the options to choke off 1 pixel of the white channel up to 5 pixels. Usually you use 1 to 2 pixels in mostly all cases. 5 pixels comes in play when you, let's say, you clip off the white background in Photoshop or Corel, but you didn't work precisely enough. You still have a tiny white edge. Then you go with 5 pixels and it takes off these white edges as well. There's just one downside on the underfilling function. When you have small, very thin white fonts, they become 5 pixels thinner when you overdo it. Usually 1 or 2 pixels are absolutely unremarkable. You don't see them, but they make a significant difference on the white edges outside of your graphic.
Okay, so basically what you're saying when it comes to underfilling is by using the underfilling function, we're not going to get these random pixels that the OK printer can generate, and usually when it comes to a random pixel, it's using a white dot to generate that pixel.
Exactly.
Okay, and apparently this is just a simple function in the RIP, so can you show us how to do it?
Yes, it's just 2 clicks. Let me show you. So, also in the step 4, in the white channel control, we do have the underfilling function over here. Usually it says don't process. When you see these white nasty pixels or white nasty edges in your graphic, in your printout, you can go in here and choose between 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 device pixel. So what it does, it reduces the amount of white by 1 pixel or up to 5 pixels. So your white graphic becomes actually a little bit smaller, so we prevent getting these white edges. On a regular basis, 1, sometimes 2 pixels are good. On quite hard cases, we can go up to 5 pixels.
Now when you say a hard case, are we talking about a difference between, let's say, using an underfilling of 1 or 2 pixels for a high resolution file as opposed to using, let's say, like a higher number like 4 or 5 device pixels if that resolution file is at a low resolution, let's say under 150 dpi?
That can help as well. It also smooths down the edges a little bit, but it's majorly done with 5 pixels when you have not really worked really clean with cutting out the white edges, let's say Photoshop and CorelDRAW beforehand. Or when you receive a graphic, it already has a white edge around it, about 2 or 3 or 5 pixels big, and then this will remove it as well.
Okay, so the underfilling is actually removing the pixels starting at the edge and moving into the interior of the design?
Yes, exactly.
So not from the exterior of the design?
Starting from the exterior and moving from the interior. So as a downside, small white fonts over here would become a little bit thinner. You usually don't mind it when you have 1 or 2 pixels. You might see it with 5 pixels when you have a very thin font. So when you want to use 5 pixel device, I would recommend to make the font a little bit thicker just to equalize it. Another neat function is the preserve partial transparency. On some graphics, let me just show you another example over here. In some graphics, you have transparencies over there. You might see it around here in that screen already, all on these edges. It starts fading out from a solid color to something transparent. When we move into our white channel control, we can see that there's a big white block around it because this is fading out. So what we do have over here on these white edges is actually a very low amount of color, let's say 2% of cyan or 3% of magenta. What the OK printer does, it fills up these colors with white because it's programmed to fill up with colors. When we use the underfilling over here, even with 5 pixels, you might move from here to there. So it's not really a big difference when we have these cases. So what you can do, just click on the Preserve Partial Transparency button, and it recreates this fading out effect that you actually wanted to achieve when you set up the transparency in your graphic.
So it will allow you to do the fade out effect, but the Oki is not going to fill in that fade with additional white toning.
Exactly. When you don't have any partial transparencies in your graphic set up, nothing will happen. So my tip is always check that box to prevent any white edges that are unwanted. It's that simple.